This week in games, let's talk about the Game Award nominations and does DLC belong in the Game of the Year category? This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 226. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor, Elliott.
It's a beautiful day to be here talking about video games. Isn't that right, Tavin?
Oh, it's a great day to be talking about video games. It's a great day to be talking about them. You know, maybe not so great of a day to be making them, but you know, when is it ever?
No.
When is it ever a great day to be making video games? But we're talking about them, and it's fun to talk about games. And we're gonna be talking about a lot of games here today, Connor, because the Video Game Awards, the Jeff Keighley Awards, dropped their list of nominations for the Game Awards. So I'm very excited to get into that with you today. Dropped a little bit of controversy alongside with it. We're going to talk about that as well. And then a couple of other things that happened in the gaming sphere, of course, because this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Two Penny Gamescast. Each week, me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. Each week, we come to you at Monday evening, twitch.tv/2pennygames, where you can watch us record all of our podcasts live. Or if you can't catch us live, Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, or mainstream podcast services of your choice. And if there's any topic of conversation that happened throughout the week that you want to get to and know our thoughts on right away, time codes, of course, are in the descriptions down below. Make sure to follow us on our social medias in the description down below. And make sure to follow us on TikTok. A lot of videos going up on TikTok. Well, not so much recently, but we're going to get back to it. So make sure you follow us on TikTok. Again, link in the description down below. Connor, how was your week this week, my friend?
Well, you know, it's nice because I wasn't going to say anything, but I decided, you know what? It is. I got laid off.
Oh, no!
Very often we talk about this this industry, and as you said at the beginning, it's not the best time to be in game development because your job is just subject to change at a moment's notice. I was not insulated from that, and so here I am. Now I'm a true gamer. I got no job.
To be abundantly clear, you were not in game development.
No, I was not. No, I'm just saying it happens there. You sometimes, when you talk about it so often, you're like, oh, that's other people being laid off. It can happen to you too. But ultimately, I am now the official, most supreme version of a bum. I have no job. I play video games. I have no girlfriend. It's pretty great. Especially for this podcast, because now I can play more games. And there's less play this year.
You indulge in substances?
No.
Okay.
No, I do not.
Okay, I guess you don't. Okay, never mind.
Mm-hmm. Except liquor.
Okay.
That's the societal accepted one. So
okay,
it's okay. It's not.
Well, that's why I left it vague at substances.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
But,
so,
you know.
Anyways, Connor, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I hope you bounce back on your feet, and I hope you find you know, some work that better you know fulfills you. Because you know, me being your roommate and your best friend, I knew, you know, the job was fine, but you didn't like love it.
Exactly. So always move on to the next horizon.
So
I don't know what that is yet.
There it is. So you know, as long as rent's on due, buddy. By the way, you know, and
yeah,
it's actually going to be more expensive this time.
That's all you care about.
Because you know, if I got to go out and work, you got to pay for my half of the rent now.
I don't know if I like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's stop wasting any time because we got a big, heavy news day ahead of us. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first topic of the day. Connor, as we mentioned it before, the Game Awards posted their nominees for the 2024 Game Awards. We're going to take it from the bottom of the list and work our way up to the big boy. The big boy, Connor, being Game of the Year. But of course, we are starting with Best Esports Team.
Well, I haven't even looked yet. Let's go with Team Liquid. Sounds great.
Yeah, we don't follow esports at all, so we are not equipped to talk about this. But the nominees are Team Liquid for Dota 2, T1 for League of Legends, Navi Counter-Strike, Gen G League of Legends, and Bilibili Billy
Yeah.
Gaming, League of Legends. All right, that's a name. Good luck to y'all.
What are you coming up with?
Best esports athlete, we got 33. Alexi B, Chovy, Faker, Zaiwu, and ZMJJKK. Good luck to
M's.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think ZMJJKK is going to be the winner.
Sure, why not?
Coolest name.
Best esports game, Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, League of Legends, Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, that's not a real game, and Valorant. It's going to be League of Legends. It's always League of Legends.
Is it always League of Legends?
It's always.
I never remember.
I feel like it's always League of Legends. Content Creator of the Year. This is one that I could kind of speak to a little bit. And of course, we've jokingly been saying it for the esports ones. The purpose of us going through this is not to say who we think is going to win. That will be on our predictions episode, which will be the week before the Game Awards. But this is more or less just to kind of talk about the nominees, what's right, what's wrong, what should have been on the list, et cetera, et cetera. Content Creator of the Year, Queso. Excuse me, I'm not going to pronounce your name right. Ilawan. Techo Gamers, Typical Gamer, Usada Picora. The only one on this list I've heard of is Queso. And I don't understand how Kai Cenat is not nominated this year.
Yeah, that was a very strange one. He had easily the biggest event on any kind of live streaming platform in the gaming space.
Yeah, his streams have been going hard as a motherfucker. Bringing up all kinds of crazy numbers. Now, admittedly, Kai Cenat, is not a gaming content creator. He's an IRL streamer mostly. But yeah, his marathons this year with Elden Ring alone, holy shit. Like, I have not seen a fan base reinvigorated the way Kai Cenat did with Elden Ring. This is before Shadow of the Erdtree came out. Yeah, I definitely think that's a bit of a snub there. I don't know why Kai is not nominated here.
Wonder what they were thinking.
Most anticipated game. This is probably the most useless category in the world. Monster Hunter Wilds, Metroid Prime 4, Beyond, Grand Theft Auto 6, Ghost of Yotai, and Death Stranding 2 on the beach.
I can't really think of a game that has a lot of fanfare behind its release before it's been actually announced.
Personally, Doom the Dark Ages. I'm pretty excited for that one.
Yeah, that's true.
More than Metroid, personally, but I understand why I understand why Metroid's here. Metroid Prime 4 is a big deal. I think this is a fine list. DS2 is my pick personally, but it is what it is. Best adaptation, we've got Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft.
I haven't heard anything about Like a Dragon. The only two I think that have a shot here are Arcane or Fallout.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a little weird that Arcane got nominated. It's not all the way out yet.
It just came out just recently.
We got another. There's another part of this show coming out Friday.
Oh, I thought it already came out.
No, they're not doing it. They did. They're breaking it up in parts. So part 2 is out.
No, I know.
They're doing a part 3.
Oh, there's a part 3. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was only in 2 parts. I thought I heard that a long while ago. Okay.
That's what I understood from Gaming Sphere Talk is that it's not all the way out yet. So yeah, I'm a little confused as to why Arcane is here. No disrespect. I mean, everybody loves Arcane. It sounds like Arcane's going great with where we're at in the season so far. But to me, the show should be out before we nominate it, shouldn't it? Like, that just kind of makes sense to me.
I mean, my issue, I guess, is a time to bring it up, is I feel like they always just try to get it out the gate as quick as humanly possible, to the point where some things get snubbed. And I feel like this is one of those days. I mean, like, another game that's not going to appear on here is Stalker, which has the potential of being an absolutely amazing game, and it's only out in 2 days. And Arcane, as you said, is only out fully soon. So it seems like it's kind of, you could have just waited a little bit. At least to give more of like a better perception. Maybe add 1 game or 2 games on there.
But they want to give plenty of time for the fans to get their votes in.
But that doesn't even start until the 2nd.
But in terms of this list, I mean, this is not the best year for adaptations for video games, at least not in comparison to years prior. but it was mostly fine. I think Fallout is carrying a lot of the weight here. Knuckles, I didn't really hear anything about. I did not hear good things about Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon seems like a very boring show, from what I understand.
Based off the direction they were going, it seems like that was inevitable.
Yeah. So I think if if it like I literally think if you don't nominate Arcane because it's not all the way out, I think like if you need 5 spots, I think Borderlands ends up on this list. And
God.
Yeah, that's how like little adaptations there were this year. Fallout sounds great. I should probably watch it at some point. Maybe that'll be my next thing. I should have watched that instead of the Penguin. I don't know why I picked the Penguin though. So
I think the Penguin's like considered better by like every account I've heard of.
Maybe
I heard Fallout's great, but
yeah,
Penguin's apparently like a generational show.
Penguin's really fucking good.
Yeah,
really fucking good. Moving on, best multiplayer. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Really happy to see Tekken 8 on here.
Yeah, and it deserves to be because I know their online function is very good.
Yeah.
It came out the gate great. I'm really happy that Space Marine 2 is on here.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that could have been overlooked for this category, and I'm happy that it wasn't because it's seriously, a super fun multiplayer to jump into. Helldivers 2 is always going to be a given.
Where's Concord? Where is Concord?
Oh, you know where it is. In a ditch somewhere, never to be awoken.
No, for real. I legit think if Concord was still around, I don't know if Mario Party's making this fucking list.
But Mario Party just has that appeal.
Yeah.
But in terms of quality, I don't think they're that vast. So that would have I think won out, especially with all of the hate Concord got.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So congratulations there. That's a good. Is there anything missing from this? I can't think of any other big multiplayer games of the year that could have been on here. X Defiant. That's about it, really. I can think
I can't think of much.
Yeah. Best sports / racing, F1 24, EA Sports FC 25, NBA 2K25, Top Spin 2K25, WWE 2K24. The only thing I have to say about this is I'm not a big sports games guy, neither are you, Connor, but NCAA football made a huge wave this year. Where is that? What's going on?
I remember that, yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. I don't know if these might just be better quality.
From what I understand, Top Spin's not that great.
No?
And NCAA, was popular and well received. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here.
This is the hole in our ability to talk about video games.
From what I understand, that's a big miss. That's a big miss from the Game Awards. So,
I'll take that one.
Best sim / strategy, Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunutsigami Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. Congratulations to Unicorn Overlord. Probably one of the more overlooked titles this year. If it was going to get nominated for anything, this is the category, and I think it's got a fair shot at winning.
I think so as well. You had talked before about it. You had an issue with them lumping in sim and strategy. I think overall it's a fine category to have.
Well, yeah, I just think
a lot of crossover.
I mean, Unicorn Overlord is a different type of game from the other games on this list.
Fair enough. I haven't played it yet, but it seems like it more is in the realm of like a JRPG, just with some management.
It's
systems.
a tactics RPG.
Yeah, tactics RPG.
And like these other like Frostpunk 2 is like a simulation strategy game, so that like kind of makes it like they just use this as a catch-all for any game that uses strategy. And it doesn't work. And it feeds into my criticism of Game Awards categories is I think it's fucking weird that we do it based off of genre. It does allow us to give nominations and shine to games that otherwise probably wouldn't, but so I'm not saying we get rid of it, but I don't know. We need better awards. We need more focused categories.
My issue with that is that whenever I think of it, I'm like, well, what would you do? And I kind of just get like a beep go through my head.
I mean, best lighting, but then again, what the fuck do you and I know about best lighting in a video game? You know what I'm saying? Best family game, Astrobot, Princess Peach Showtime, Super Mario Party Jamboree, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire. I think that pretty much hits the mark here. I can't think of anything else that came out this year that could have gone under here. Princess Peach Showtime, bit of a reach, probably. but I think everything else works out pretty well. Astrobot going to be a running theme here for nominees. And I'm fairly certain Astrobot is going to sweep.
I definitely don't believe that, but I also don't think that it's going to win this category. I just don't think so. I think it's going to be Super Mario Party.
No, I think it's Astrobot.
I know.
The only thing working against Astrobot is that it's single player.
Even then, I don't think it fights against it that much. Especially because I was seeing some people like post videos of like showing it to their kids, like the game to their kids, and then playing it and having tons of fun with it.
Astrobot's such a wonderful game, man. I gotta take a visit up to see my sister and my nephew and my niece, and if they have not bought him my nephew plays games, and if they haven't bought him Astrobot yet, I'm buying a copy and I'm bringing it over. So. Best fighting game, Connor, you can speak to this a little bit. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom, Fighting Collection Arcade Classics, Multiverses, Tekken 8.
Yeah, the only padding on this list is Multiverses. It has its place here.
Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics?
Oh yeah, dude, that's the thing. That's tons of classic hard-hitting games that have existed in days past.
Ooh, I got such a problem with you defending this and knowing your take on something that's coming up later. I've got such a problem with that. But okay.
Oh, why is that?
Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Oh, this. I see what you mean.
We'll get to it when we get to it, But a collection of old games, I don't understand how that's nominated here.
To my knowledge, they had also like updated it as well. That gives it a little bit more credence to it.
Maybe some, yeah. Fuck it.
But I mean,
there's Effect Legendary Edition collection in there.
I think there's only one game here that's going.
Where is the Metal Gear Solid Masters collection? We need a best, and this is my thing with it, Connor. We're gonna get to it, but I think the two categories that the Game Awards really desperately need right now is one, they need a best DLC / expansion category, and two, they need a best remaster / remake category.
Yeah, that'd be good. But
even though remakes and remasters are not the same thing, and they should not be heralded as the same thing, but I understand public perception on it.
Tavin, you mentioned Metal Gear Solid Collection. That probably wouldn't win anything.
No.
You said it yourself. Bad collection. Bad collection.
No. Yeah.
Keyword collection.
No, from my understanding, the best collection or remaster anything this year was probably Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, because you fighting game freaks went nuts over that shit. Best RPG: Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor, ReFantasia. Now, Connor, I'm going to leave it up to you. Dragon's Dogma 2 over Dragon Age?
Yeah. I would definitely put it over there. Yeah, just on gameplay. My issue with Dragon's Dogma is that the world itself, it's fleshed out, but it doesn't feel like you're a character in that world. You feel like you're just kind of like a bystander going through it, which limits the enjoyment that you could have with the game. But the combat system is very fun. It's the same kind of like style of Dragon Age Veilguard. Obviously, they take a lot of different turns with it, particularly with how you deal with your companions and how you use the abilities that your character has on hand. But Dragon's Dogma does it in a far more interesting way, and encounters with enemies felt a lot more special, especially when you're going in the overland world. Whereas Dragon Age is kind of just like, here's the next wave of enemies to come at you, and they're not the most fun to fight. They're not bad to fight, but not really fun either. Whereas Dragon's Dogma, those running into the like giant beasts in the forest that attack you when you're just walking around, or when you're in a fight with fucking goblins or something like that, was a fun experience just to kind of dive into and have that happen to you. In Dragon's Dogma.
All right. I'm excited to see Like a Dragon on this. I've played 12 hours of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, somewhere around there, maybe even a little less, honestly. But I think it's a fun game. It's a charming game, and it's fun to see that franchise get recognized by the Game Awards whenever it can. So shout out to them. Best Action Adventure. This is Astrobot, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Why is Star Wars Outlaws here? That's my thing. I don't understand how anybody could even put Star Wars Outlaws in the same category as the rest of these games. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It really doesn't. And there's tons of games you could have done instead of that. So it's just like, I guess you wanted to throw meat to it in some way, shape, or form, but it's not really deserving of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's very deserving of it at all. Yeah, that game, not good. I think you could have done, I mean, maybe those fall under the action categories, but Black Myth Wukong or Stellar Blade, I think, would have fit that better.
I agree.
Or
Guess
even
not.
even Rise of the Ronin. But
honestly, well, I wouldn't say Rise of the Ronin, but the two other ones you said might even be like good to replace it, like Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 combat's like good, but it's not like the draw of that game at all.
Yeah, it's one of those things is there's not a best horror game category because we don't get that many horror games, so it's not worth making a category of it. So you gotta find a place to stick them, and action adventure is where they end up being stuck. And to be fair, best action adventure, the description is for the best action/adventure game, combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving.
The puzzle solving is the element that I think pushes it into this list then.
Yeah.
But even then, like, not combat and traversal. Like traversal is, you know what, that's nice. But once again, that falls more into I'm going to give it its credit as a horror game in terms of its traversal rather than an adventure game.
Sure. Yeah, I think Astrobot's taking this one, but it should be Prince of Persia.
Huh, yeah, you like that more, I guess, huh? As a game.
Oh, flip a coin. You know, they're two
enough.
very different games, but yeah, they're good stuff. Best action game. Yep, those are the two games that I just mentioned. I knew they'd be here. Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, Warhammer 40K, Space Marine 2. I think this is fine. I think this for the most part hits the mark.
Call of Duty probably could have been replaced by something, but it's not like an obscene to be there or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it at all. So yeah, this works for me. I have no idea who's winning this. Probably Black Myth.
I think so.
Or Stellar Blade. I like Helldivers a lot though.
No. I mean, that had the biggest impact out of all those games, I think. Well, maybe Black Myth is the other contention to that, but
yeah. Oh, yeah, Black Myth made a huge impact. Best VR/AR, Arizona Sunshine Remake, Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, Metro Awakening. I don't know a lot about the VR space in order to tell you, but I mean, Batman made the biggest wave just because it's Batman.
Yeah.
I also heard Metro Awakening was just okay.
What was?
Metro.
Oh, just okay.
Yeah. Best mobile game, AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero. This is Balatro's game to lose. And if it's going to lose, it's going to lose to Pokemon. Because it's Pokemon.
I think if it was going to lose to anything, it's Zenless Zone Zero. That's got a big base.
I heard some names about Zenless Zone Zero, but the fact that spoilers for what's coming up ahead. Balatro got nominated for Game of the Year. Balatro is going to take probably every category that it can.
Mm-hmm. Very likely.
Is what I would expect. And also, it's amazing. You know, I know you didn't really play it, Connor. I put a good amount of hours into it. It was an obsession for a good 2 weeks of mine. Yeah, that's a great game. Now, Pokemon Trading Card Game is the only thing that I'm like, oh, maybe that one. But as obsessed with that game as people also are like, you know, it's got problems, but you know, they're willing to overlook those problems. Balatro is just a pretty damn well designed game. Best debut indie: Animal Well, Balatro, Manalords, Pacific Drive, The Plucky Squire. Again, I think this is pretty much nails the nail on the head for best debut indie games. This is a fight between Animal Well and Balatro.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Animal Well seemed like it had a bigger fanfare, but both of them are not that, like, they're pretty similar in levels of how much attention they got.
I see the difference is that I think Animal Well had a stronger punch out the gate, but Balatro didn't go away. Balatro, from the moment it launched to now, Balatro has been hella active on social media. It's had presence in showcases throughout the year. It's been released on every single platform that you can think of, which is going to give it the edge over Animal Well. Is just that it's more available to play, and I think the legs have carried it past that initial giant punch that Animal Well had. So it's going to be an interesting one to see which one wins out there.
What can you say? People like gambling.
People like gambling. It's a good game. Best independent game. Best debut indie game. Wait. Am I tripping? Oh, best mobile game.
No.
Okay. Best debut indie game. And then best independent game. Again, Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, UFO 50. These are great games. Indies really showed up this year. They really showed up this year. I am shocked to see UFO 50 in this. This is one that I only like heard about in passing. Connor, do you know what UFO 50 is?
Nope.
So Connor, UFO 50 is a collection of 50 games that indie designers, indie devs around the world, I believe, decided to get together and make 50 mini games in the style of old NES things. And so they made there's a bunch of different types of games in there. There's like a Punch Out or like a Crazy Taxi inspired thing. There's like RPG. There's whole RPGs in this game. And it's from like developers that like I want to say the what's the indie game everybody loves with the hearts?
Undertale?
The Undertale dev made one. The Animal Well guy made one. Yeah, like there's just a bunch of devs like made a bunch of games. And so it's a really, really fascinating little collection. I've been wanting to check it out, but I just have not found the fucking time. Neva, I think, did exactly what it was supposed to do. Very artsy, very nice. I think where it's going to falter is gameplay. And being sad. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes I heard about, but I don't know anything about.
It's once again Balatro and Animal Well that are up for the.
It really is. It's between those two. So but I do want to shout out indies this year. Great year for indies. Great year. I think it's been a great year all around, but we'll get to that conversation later. Best community support. We've got Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, No Man's Sky. Now, Connor, this is best community support. Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates / patches. So this is not best ongoing game. This is best community support. So who talked to their community the best? That's how Baldur's Gate 3 found its way here.
I know.
Yeah. I think this makes sense. This list is kind of who I would have expected to make. No Man's Sky made some great impacts this year. So I think their community is super, super happy with the product of No Man's Sky this year. Helldivers 2 had great social media presence, putting out a bunch of cool trailers and a bunch of like incoming transmission. Things are happening, like type thing. A lot of great social media games. So I don't think there's a clear winner here. In this, but I think if Helldivers is going to win one, I think it might be this one.
It's very possible. I mean, I remember there was just that they did a really good job of pushing it when they realized they had a hit on their hands. It all of a sudden was like, oh, we got to do as much as we can.
And their ability to talk to the people about why you have to wait in the line. Like, hey guys, we're building servers. We're trying our best. Yeah. And then when the whole PlayStation thing happened and the user reviews crashed and then came back up, them capitalizing on that, making merchandise off of that, and putting it as a cape in the game. That's great work. That's really great work. So yeah, I hope Helldivers 2 makes it out of this because I've got a personal standing with Helldivers personally.
Yeah.
Best ongoing. Here we go. Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. Is there anything missing here? I don't know if there's anything missing here. No Man's Sky, maybe, because No Man's Sky did do a lot of great updates this year, but it didn't have like a big expansion or anything. But they had a lot of great updates. Helldivers 2 for best ongoing feels a little premature.
It definitely is, but I feel like because it made the splash it did, that's why they're putting it on here.
Sure.
But certainly other games made much greater leaps during its life this year.
Yeah.
Where it's going to go to someone else.
To me, this is between Destiny and Diablo, maybe Fortnite. I think Final Fantasy 14's expansion, what was that called? Dawn Trail. I think Dawn Trail was well received, but it didn't seem like it was very special. It didn't light the fan base on fire. Whereas the Final Shape and the new Diablo 4 expansion have been extremely well received, and I mean, there was talks of the final shape being in like top 10 game of the year conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So very interested to see how that one goes. But I mean, I think it could realistically go anyway. Games for impact. I never understand this category. For a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kinzero Zao.
It is very weird because they all have a certain message that they're trying to push, and it almost seems like the whim of who votes for this really determines.
I mean, if we're talking, like,
wins.
Did Life is Strange like do a big message this year? I don't think they did. From my understanding of Double Exposure, it was just a good story. Like, we don't need to put Life is Strange in here every single time a Life is Strange game comes out. You know? And also, I mean, it's kind of gross because it's a AAA game, and I know this is like kind of reserved for smaller developers or indie games. You know, even though Senua's Saga is also a AAA game, but not as much. It's a smaller studio, right? So that makes sense. But like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like,
I see what you're saying.
Like, you're gonna tell me that game isn't for you know what I mean? Like, isn't for the environment and global warming and all those things and like the effect on the planet and so forth. Like, it's kind of the whole point of those fucking games. So
yeah, but I feel like a lot of people just kind of ignore that aspect of it, or like they don't focus on it as much as they maybe should.
Is Neva about anything? Or I thought Neva was just about your dog dying or some shit.
I have no. I don't even remember what the like previews were like. Yeah. So I thought you played. Did you play a little bit of it?
No, I want to. It's on my list.
Okay. You know, since you're bringing AAA games into this category, Silent Hill 2 isn't the bad thing to put here. If that's the
really
we're having. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, definitely. You know,
some like mental health stuff or something, or what?
Was it?
Is it like some mental health stuff or something, or what?
Yes, I played the game. Right, that's nice that you don't know anything.
I don't know a damn shit about Silent Hill 2.
That's good. That's very good.
Innovation in accessibility, recognizing software and or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. We have Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Star Wars Outlaws. I'm usually pretty in tune with the accessibility trends in games, and this year I'm not, which is upsetting. I should do better about that. Nothing is lighting a fire under my seat. I know Dragon Age did pretty well. I know Star Wars actually did pretty well in this to give Star Wars Outlaws some credit. I know Star Wars Outlaws did pretty well in this sense. Call of Duty usually does pretty well in this. I don't know anything about Diablo 4. Prince of Persia was okay here. I think they did decent here. So if I were to guess, Dragon Age or Star Wars here, if I were to guess, but I couldn't tell you because I'm not 100% sure. Usually I'm better about this one.
Usually, I usually hear at least like one game that had some standout accessibility features, but this year I just didn't. So yeah, I'm in the same boat as you.
So, which is a good thing, right? Or yeah. I would hope it is. I think that means that like after Last of Us Part 2, like accessibility became a big thing. So I think more games are much more focused on it now. And so, you know, if it kind of becomes a bit of the norm, I know games did well this year. I know Dragon Age and Star Wars did pretty well with their accessibility this year. But what they did this year would have caused headlines 5 years ago. And so it's nice that the things that they're doing aren't causing headlines anymore, you know?
Yeah. More standardized.
Yeah. Best performance. We have Brianna White from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell from Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez from Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts, Silent Hill 2, Melina Juergens, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2.
The only ones that I haven't played here is Life is Strange and Star Wars Outlaws, but I've heard the voices of the characters in question. This is the only thing I'll actually put a lock in for what I'm voting for and what I think is going to win. Luke Roberts seriously gave like a standout performance for Ethan Winters. Fucking blanking on the fucking name.
Yeah, it's a real generic name. It's like Jack, isn't it?
Oh my god! I literally just. Holy
I looked
shit.
it up recently so that I could for the video we did on gameplay in survival horror games. I had to look up his name, but I can't remember it now.
James Sunderland.
James Sunderland. Yeah, that's generic.
Great
I'm not.
choice.
I'm not in love with any of these picks. There are some great ones. Brianna White in Final Fantasy VII did a great job.
Right.
I'm sure Melina Juergens did a great job in Hellblade 2 because she won the last one. That she did.
Runner up for this in my mind. Like, it's who would win.
So, I mean, I'm not upset at any of these. I'm not upset at any of these, but I also don't think this was the best year in terms of performances that we've ever seen. I mean, coming off of years like 2020 where we had, multiple Last of Us actors, we had Final Fantasy VII Remake, we had Ghost of Tsushima, there's some more ones that I could, and obviously like Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War Ragnarok. There's something else I'm thinking of. I don't know. A lot of great roles and no shade to these actors, especially Luke Roberts. I'm sure he did well by your praise, Connor. And I'm sure all these other ones did fantastic as well. Even the Star Wars Outlaws, I liked that actor for that role. I liked that the game let that character down.
Which one were you saying?
Outlaws.
Life Strange? Oh, Outlaws, yeah. Fair enough. I didn't know if she was worthy of being on this list. I assume she had to be. Only other thing I'll say, the snub is Richard Lintern for a NPC that he voiced in Elden Ring, Egon. Like, serious, that guy, my God, he just put every ounce of energy and effort he could into voicing just this small character, he really made a performance.
I think it should be said, Metaphor, I heard there was a couple of snubs from Metaphor.
I can imagine. Yeah.
That should have been in there. So that I think is just because of how late Metaphor came out and how big that game is.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters. And they do good job as well. So.
And I also think if Helldivers came out more recently, like in September, I think it would be sweeping awards. And I think if Dragon Age came out sooner or earlier in the year, like if Dragon Age came out in May, I think it would have been nominated for more. I'm not saying it would have won, but it would have been nominated for something other than accessibility.
Yeah, it certainly might have, but I guess that's the other timeline we'll have to jump into if we ever get like not a time machine, but like an alternate reality machine.
Yeah, right. Best audio design: Astrobot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Silent Hill 2. I'm not mad at any of this. This all makes sense to me. If I were to guess, it's going to be Senua's Saga because audio is what that team excels at.
And they did in that game.
Yeah. But shout out to Astrobot and Final Fantasy. Call of Duty is nominated in this every year, and for good reason. The Call of Duty audio team does great work.
They do.
Yeah. So yeah, but this is probably going to go to Hellblade. It's probably going to be Hellblade's only award, except maybe performance. But Astrobot, all the little chips and chipper little noises that happen in Astrobot when he runs across a different surface or bumps into different objects and so forth. It was great stuff. It was great stuff.
That being said, though, Silent Hill 2's audio design makes the game incredibly scary. Ups that to the level that it is, partly due just to audio design alone, which I think it ended up in the game itself was more effective than Hellblade 2, though the audio in that game is also fantastic, which is saying something.
Connor, we're pressing in on almost 40 minutes here. Do we just want to make this whole episode about Game Awards? Because we've still got some topics of discussion to go into.
Yeah, sure. The only thing I'll say is I wrote stories for this. So hey, everyone, we have a Substack.
So yeah, I was gonna say that here. Here, I'll pull it up here. And maybe it can. Give me the channel here. So it's gonna be on screen here. Let me see if I can pull up is this it? Oh, this is it. Okay. Yeah. So we started a Substack. Connor, explain what a Substack is.
So a Substack is basically a site where independent journalists, particularly independent journalists, but really anybody, have their own, it's their own publication basically, but it's all compiled onto one area, so you can look for certain topics that you like the most, and you just read. If you're tired of all of the mainstream news outlets always going to them for news, you could find some interesting stuff on Substack. And so it's just a good place if you guys want to read the stories that we're deciding to use for our main reads while we're doing the podcast. You can go over there and read them. I will try to do things that even we won't cover on the podcast, just so you can get a little bit of light gaming news. But it's a nice site, and figured we'd make use of it now.
Yeah. So yeah, follow. Subscribe to us on Substack. Pledge if you want. I don't think that is that set up to where we can accept pledges, Connor, or is that what is that?
I think I still need to add a paid op. No, yeah, I think I need to add a pay off.
It asked me if when I subscribed myself, it asked me if I wanted to pledge a thing. So I don't know what that's about. Maybe it sits in its own like account on Substack or something. We'll figure all of this will be figured out eventually. But please subscribe. The link will be added to the description down below so that you can read all of Connor's articles yourself. Connor, thank you so much for doing all this work here. And I'm sure that just check in throughout the week. I'm sure Connor will be adding things and plugging things in, and then eventually, if this can kind of become our full-time or even part-time jobs off of this, and not just something we do in our spare time, it'll be more and more. So and all of the stories that we read will be posted here as well because Connor's doing them.
It might as well, right?
Yeah. So moving on. Best score and music. This one, I think the competition is stiff. I don't think there's a clear winner here. Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade is the only loser here.
It is the only one, yeah.
Yeah.
No one I heard talk about that at all. Maybe I'm in my bubble with Silent Hill 2 because that's just some atmospheric music when it hits. Because it's nice because it uses it. It's not like the other games that use a lot of music in your moment-to-moment gameplay, and so when it does come in, you kind of get that breath of fresh air because it breaks the tone of the game, and it also just sounds pleasing to listen to. Like you can listen to those soundtracks on their own, which I guess you could kind of say for everything on here except Astrobot.
No, you can listen to Astrobot on your own.
What's that?
You can listen to Astrobot on your own.
Yeah, so that's if it's on here, that's good.
To me,
all these other ones you can do.
To me, this is between Astrobot and Rebirth, and then Metaphor's pulling a close third.
Metaphor does its music probably hits the hardest solely because it describes in the early moments of the game that music is the original magic or something like that, and when the music she act your little fairy companion activates music magic or something, it's a third wall breaking moment, but then the song comes in and it's this big crescendo moment of basically introducing you to the title card, I believe came soon afterwards. So that had the biggest impact of a soundtrack appearing in a game. But as you said, Rebirth it's fantastic. We went and saw the live concert, so we can say how great it is.
Good. It's so good. Yeah, I think my personal vote would probably be for Rebirth here, but Astrobot kicks ass too. Astrobot is joyous. The main Astrobot theme does get stuck in my head all the time. So yeah, big shout out to Astrobot here. I think it has a more than solid chance at winning here. But the competition is stiff, so it could go any way.
It really could.
Best art direction: Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, Neva. This one's kind of tough for me too.
Yeah. I know you're not a big fan. You were just talking about it last night of all the shit that goes on in Atlas games in terms of art direction wise.
Metaphor especially, Persona 4 and Persona 3, or I'm sorry, Persona 5 and Persona 3 Reload got away with it, but I find the new art style or just the style direction of Atlas games to be very messy and sometimes hard to read. I think P5 and P3 look better than Metaphor do.
Yeah, I would do Persona 3, definitely. I say this actually looks better than Persona 5 because it is loud, the designs going on.
It's very loud.
But
and I don't think running
like it, though.
the very little that I've played of Metaphor, and it's very little, opening 15 minutes I've played twice. like running around in the world, it's not a good looking world to me. Now that is slightly intentional, and my read is that it's a bigger world than anything we've had before from an Outlast game. So like the detail may not be as detailed, or maybe it's just the opening 15 minutes are kind of ugly. But yeah, I'm not impressed from the art direction of Metaphor personally.
Now that you're saying it, the biggest thing that would draw it back from winning over all of these other ones is, as you said, some of the more overworld type graphics. They don't particularly. It's all coming from the UI and how good that looks. But even then, I would say Persona 3 would have been a better pick compared to Metaphor.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. As much as, and we're going to get into it a little bit, as much as like the Elden Ring discourse has been happening online, this is the only one where I find it to be a bit egregious.
Egregious?
Yeah.
There's some beautiful shit in this DLC.
I believe, but I believe it, but we've already seen your art direction.
Oh, well, I agree. Ultimately I don't know where I'm landing on this one. This one's kind of a harder one. Because Astrobot's nice, but it's just
I mean,
cutesy style.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, it's cutesy, and it does fare a little generic, generally. And I think Astrobot is. I think it's because Astrobot himself is generic. A lot of the enemy designs are pretty generic. But I think as a unified art style and a unified art direction, it looks fantastic. I think it's one of the PlayStation 5's best looking games. And what they do with. Where Astrobot shines is what they do with their physics engine stuff, which is an element here. So like, there's a lot of moments where you run through like a lot of Orbeez looking things, and you're pushing hundreds and hundreds of little colorful orbs around and stuff like that. And on top of that, the worlds are just so dynamically colored and inviting, and there are worlds where lighting changes a lot as you progress through the level and so forth. So you see a lot of different sides of what is admittedly a pretty generic coin.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'll play Astrobot eventually. It's one of the games I do want to play, especially because it has so many positions on this list.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say about Astrobot after your journey with 3D platformers through the Game Club.
That'd be interesting way to look at it,
because admittedly this is a kids game, so it's meant for kids, right? So it's pretty easy for the most part. It's not super complicated, but like it's hard, but I mean, you enjoyed Banjo-Kazooie, and I think this is a better game than Banjo-Kazooie.
I feel like that's not really a hard thing to think.
It's not a fair comparison, but
I was like, Jesus, I guess.
But
I guess you're right.
I think Astrobot is truly a wonderful game, and so I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about it. I don't think it'll be like one of your favorite games of the year, but I think you'll like it. I think there's a chance it lands in your like 10 to 7.
I easily would imagine it doing so. Just from what I've seen, it just seems like a fun game.
And then we should talk about Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong is a beautiful game, at least in its cutscenes. And turned a lot of heads artistically this year. So yeah, I don't know where this one goes.
I was thinking about it. Definitively, I think the only one that could be not the only one that could be. I think it should be Black Myth Wukong. Because you mentioned cutscenes.
I think it should be Neva, but I don't think enough people played Neva.
Well, have you seen so when you say like the cutscenes are good in Black Myth Wukong? What are you talking? What cutscenes have you seen that you're talking about?
There's a lot of like pre-rendered cutscenes of like Homie falling through the sky is the one that I know very very well, but I've only seen small clips.
Is it in game?
No,
like cutscenes you're talking about?
No, they're clearly pre-rendered stuff.
No, I mean pre-rendered in the sense of like it's still like the model as you see like Wukong like doing things, because what they'll do is they'll do like animated sequences. I haven't gotten to those points yet. Oh. I've watched them online. Stunning, like absolutely stunning. Not to mention the designs of the enemies and the characters are all so diverse.
Are you talking like 2D animated stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I've not seen any of that.
They're like beautiful style as well.
Oh,
like
interesting. Okay.
Kind of like Chinese art, like put to animation.
Best narrative: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Metaphor Refantasio, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Silent Hill 2. I don't know where this goes.
I don't think Hellblade will be getting it.
No?
I don't think so. It's not that good of a story.
Okay.
It's
I don't
really not.
As much as I loved it, and as much as I'm aching to see more of it, I don't think Rebirth wins here. I think Rebirth put off a lot of people narratively this year, especially with the bloat of the game and just the section of the game that it's taking place in. It's just not a very like story heavy part of the game. You know, not a lot of plot happens in this part of the game. So it's a lot of like just running around, getting to know characters, having great character moments. The main plot kind of takes a back seat. And when the main plot came back around in the final 45 minutes of the game, it is intentionally upsetting.
But even to that point, the characters themselves are so amazing in this game.
So strong.
I think that carries the narratives to the point where it has a big chance at winning. My big question is, how much value are people going to put this time around on Silent Hill 2's narrative?
Yeah.
Because that's clearly the thing that makes it as famous as it is. And it's amazing. It's even better done in this game.
But it's mostly the same as the original, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's tried and true.
I think this is a tricky year for narrative. It's a tricky year.
Yeah.
Metaphor, again, it might just be too recent and people may not have gotten deep enough into it.
That's, I think, the key, because we were talking earlier about voice performances being snubbed. In particular, the main villain seems like he has a lot of potential. You know, he got a lot of draw to him. And the main cast, they're a fun main cast, even though I barely even gotten all of them. So I'm interested to see myself play that game more and come back to you and try and give some Two Pennies perspective on why it deserves to be on this list. But I'm assuming the people that made this list played it all the way through, and so they know what they're talking about. But
shout out to Like a Dragon getting a nomination here. Like a Dragon / Yakuza games always have like cool stories, fun stories. You know, sometimes emotional stories, but they're never the best stories. And I would say that's true for my experience in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. It was what I was expecting. So shout out for them being able to get on this list, but I think that is indicative of just kind of the year we've had in terms of story for the year. I mean, the biggest games of the year, Helldivers, Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, like these aren't like games that you're going for the story, you know?
Yeah, true. Not as much as the others on the list, at least.
Best Game Direction, awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. We have Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor Refantasio. Again, this is a hard one.
Yeah, I got no clue.
I've zero idea. I mean, just because Miyazaki as a director has such a spotlight on him, I could see Elden Ring taking this one in lieu of Game of the Year, which we'll get to in a minute. But I could say the same thing for Rebirth with Nomura and the team over there. I think like a win for the culture would be Balatro. That'd be a win for the culture of video games here for an indie game made by one or two people to get to this stage and then also win. It would be incredibly effective and impactful. And then even on top of that, I wouldn't be mad if Balatro won. Like, that is a really well-designed game. And so the direction in that game is very, very good. I think Balatro has a shot here. I also think Astrobot has a shot here. I think I could see this go anyway. I don't think Black Myth is winning here.
Yeah. No, that was the only definitive one where I'm like, you know what? I've also heard some things that it doesn't stay consistently good all the way through. Whereas all these other games, I've not heard that at all.
Black Myth Wukong, from my understanding as a player who has not played it, is a really good game. Not like the best game ever, but got overhyped to hell because for some reason the mainstream picked up on it. Don't know why. I don't know why Black Myth was popular, but it was. And so here we are with it. So, I think Black Myth is probably the most overrated game of the year from my understanding of the talk around it.
It is.
I'm not eliciting my own personal opinion. I have none.
I am. It is.
It's
good. It's not that good.
Yeah, it's good. It's not that good. But I was expecting, just because of the impact it made, I was expecting it to be heavy in the nominations this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't really win anything other than maybe art direction.
Yeah, maybe deserve that.
Game of the Year, recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. It's the same exact list as Best Game Direction.
Yeah, so, and it's same exact kind of vein of it can go either way.
Yeah.
The big thing we've talked about, relatively talked about, it's only just came out in this news today, is Erdtree on the list.
Yeah.
Because it's DLC.
Because it's DLC. This has caused a lot of fire. And Connor, for once, it happens every so often, but not super often. You and I fall on opposite sides of the argument here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think personally, the argument is should DLCs or expansions be allowed to be nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards? My perspective is, one, Jeff Keighley has been very clear that he doesn't really have any set parameters for what the Game of the Year is. It's what the people decide it to be. So if the people nominate an indie game, a early access game, a fully launched release game, a AAA game, a AA game, a game from 3 years ago that got popular this year or whatever, if the people nominate it, he allows it. And so on that, I think it's valid. But I also think personally that Shadow of the Erdtree has more than deserved its spot in this year's list. If a DLC or expansion is sizable enough, if it makes a big enough impact, if it is the talk of the town in a impactful enough way, what does that mean? Judge it for yourself. Is anybody going to tell me Shadow of the Erdtree was not one of the biggest releases of the year? Come on. Like, it's clearly probably top 3 biggest releases this year, if not one, you know?
Yeah, going from Keighley's perspective, I just kind of ignore it because it's like, it's one man. I get it's his thing.
It's his show.
I don't care enough about his personal opinion to be like, hey, you know what? We should be overriding.
It's his rules, Connor. He makes the rules. You got to listen to the guy who makes the rules.
I don't care. No, I got to listen to him in the sense of how I have to frame all of this, which is that it's not from somebody else, or it's not from some like group of people. It's Jeff Keighley. You know, good guy. Everything I've known about, everything I see about him.
But also remember, Keighley's not the one who's doing the nominating.
Yeah, but his reasoning of like, well, if it's a game that was big that year, it makes it justifiable to be on there. I don't agree with, especially if it's a game that came, particularly when it comes to games that came out like 2 years ago, like you were using for example.
I don't necessarily agree with Keighley. If a game, Phil brought it up on the piggy bank, Among Us came out like 2017, 2018, something like that, and then hit it big in 2020. I would not have been mad if Among Us was nominated for 2020 Game Awards. It was a big ass game. It made a huge impact. So what? It came out a few years before. Nobody played it before. When it had its big splash, it's like that. If Destiny 2 really killed it with the final shape to the point to where everybody could not shut the fuck up about it, I'd have no problem with Destiny 2 / Destiny 2 the final shape being nominated for Game of the Year. No problem with that. But my issue is early access games. I don't think early access games should be nominated. But the Game Awards has a history of that. They nominated PUBG. So,
yeah, not a fan of that particularly either.
I don't think early access games should be nominated. They're gonna have their shot when they come out.
But you know, you brought up like Destiny, for example. If like they hit it big, they would put on this list. I don't think that's the case. In the same way, I don't think with Final Fantasy 16 that has some of them like also has generational DLC when they would come out with it. There's so many of them. I'm trying to think of one in particular that was apparently like one of the best. Not Dawn Trail, which is what keeps invading my mind. It was Edge something.
Phantom Liberty. Is that where you're going? Or are you thinking Edge?
No. I'm thinking Final Fantasy 16 because that
Dawn Trail was the one this year.
What?
Dawn Trail was this year's.
14. I'm 14. I'm sorry. This was years prior. It's not something that came out this year. Shadowbringers. That's what it was. That had, I remember, an amazing amount of fanfare and like power behind it, not only by the community, but people joining in on Final Fantasy to play it. And due to the fact that still wasn't because that game wasn't in the zeitgeist of just the general public in the same way a FromSoft game, particularly an Elden Ring game would be, that they kind of just let this one slip by for that exact reason.
I mean, that's that's the Academy, right? Like
Yeah.
that's on the fault of the people, the jurors, the people who make the nominations and who vote, right? So like Elden Ring made the splash. It just did. So my point against it is nobody would be crying if Spider-Man Miles Morales was nominated for Game of the Year, even though Spider-Man Miles Morales was essentially just an expansion pack for Spider-Man 2018. And so I think Shadow of the Erdtree is more deserving of a Game of the Year nomination than a Miles Morales was. But my only point is nobody would have cried because Sony packaged the game differently than how Bandai Namco has decided to package this game.
Well, a part of that is also because when it comes to Miles Morales, well, I guess I should say when it comes to Erdtree, you have to have the base game. They specifically were like, hey, get to this point in the game so you can access it. With Miles Morales, it is standalone in the sense that you don't have to play the other game.
I mean, that's a choice. That's a choice. You would know better than me, Connor, but are you telling me it's impossible? I know it is impossible. I'm saying from a developer's perspective, do you think it's impossible to make Shadow of the Erdtree in a way to where like a player can still have their game? Or not have their game, but a player could still jump. Are you going to say it's impossible that how am I trying to say this? Fuck. Is it impossible? Is it impossible for FromSoft to have developed Shadow of the Erdtree in a way to where gamers could have just jumped in straight into that? I don't think it is
possible.
I think they're talented enough to where they could have given you some preset classes if you wanted, and given you a couple of options to choose some armor layouts and jump into that journey without the baggage of being attached to Elden Ring.
Oh, I agree. They definitely could have done that, and that's kind of the point, is that they didn't. They wanted to do a DLC that's entirely based off of the original game that came out years ago. Whereas once again, Miles Morales, if that was like also a DLC attached to the game that you had to go into like the PlayStation Store to buy it while you had Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, then I'd be saying the same exact things of like, well, it was connected to the game.
I mean, it's easier to package these games these ways because 1+2 and all that. But like, I mean, not for nothing, Shadow of the Erdtree is longer than half the games on this list.
Oh, it is, which is the biggest.
It has more
credit you can give it to being put on.
It has more content than half the games on this list. And I'm not someone who thinks longer play times equal quality, but I mean, come on. Like, Shadow of the Erdtree is quality content. It's new content. It's content that's different from the main game in a lot of different ways. I mean, it's a new map. It's got not new mechanics, but it expands on mechanics that you weren't really using in the main game, which is why people were struggling with it. It's got new boss fights, new enemies, new weapons. Like, I mean, they could have chopped this off and charged you $70 for this.
They could have, yeah. Which is, again, that's kind of like the best credit to it because it is so jam packed full of new stuff.
Yeah,
and it is, it felt like I was playing Elden Ring 2. You've said it's like, it could be packaged as such. It'd be half-assed. I'd say like, well, clearly you're just trying to get on the cash grab.
Oh, I mean, Elden Ring 1 is 100 hours long and this one's 30. Yeah. So it's like,
but even like actually, that doesn't even make sense because other FromSoft games can take about that long to beat. So it once again, it's the issue of that it's just so connected
I mean, that would have been
Elden Ring.
That's equivalent to a Dark Souls, isn't it?
Yeah. Dark Souls is a bit longer.
I mean,
but still,
longevity.
There are reasons why it was put on this list.
Yeah.
It's just my issue is I don't want to open the floodgates of just DLCs can be Game of the Year.
See, but I don't think there's floodgates for it. Like,
I think there would. I think
listen, there's no shot for Alan Wake 2's The Lake House DLC to be nominated for Game of the Year. There's no shot. There's little to no shot that Diablo 4's Vessel of Hatred was going to be nominated for Game of the Year, right? Like, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree is the exception, and because it's the exception, we shouldn't be mad at it. And I think it should be allowed. I think it should just generally be allowed. Personally, I think Phantom Liberty should have had a decent shot, but last year was so good that it didn't get in because the other games were so good. If Phantom Liberty came out this year, I don't know if you're seeing Balatro on this list.
I feel like they ultimately would have caved to it not being like as generational of a like game release as Shadow of the Erdtree was. I mean, ultimately, people were still calling like Phantom Liberty a DLC. This one, people clearly were like, it's a DLC, but it's its own game basically. Standalone.
I mean, Phantom Liberty is like 20 hours.
Yeah, but people weren't like that. Was not the attitude of the gamers, of the people at the time. People think that for Shadow of the Erdtree, but they didn't see it that way with Phantom Liberty. Even though like based on the specific how similar it is to Shadow of the Erdtree, your line of thinking makes more sense.
Has Larian spoken on if they are doing DLC for Baldur's Gate 3? They're not? Okay.
No.
It's the only other one that I would have thought of like, hey man, if we get like a 20, 30 hour campaign out of them, another act, if we get another act out of them, what do we do then?
And that's another case where I think that would be launched by Baldur's Gate 3 as a title, and people would kind of overlook anything else and say, well, it's Baldur's Gate 3, and it's all this new content, so might as well make it a new game.
Oh, you're saying Shadow of the Erdtree is only in here because it's tied to the name Elden Ring?
Yeah, I think so. I think if it was just they've
See,
never done this before.
I think people are only mad about it because of naming wise it's tied to Elden Ring. I think if Shadow of the Erdtree came out on its own, it's on this list no matter what. I think it might win.
Oh, like just without Elden Ring, it's just Shadow of the Erdtree?
Yeah, if it was just Shadow of the FromSoft's Shadow of the Erdtree, it's probably gonna win.
Yeah, it probably would.
Just because
it's Elden Ring.
Because it's Elden Ring. I think because it's tied to Elden Ring and it is a DLC / expansion, I think it's not gonna win. But I have no problem with it being nominated. I have no problem with it being the shot. And let's be honest.
That's the question.
If Shadow of the Erdtree came out in 2020, I was gonna say 2, but that's when Elden Ring came out. If Shadow of the Erdtree came out in 21, Shadow of the Erdtree wins. If it came out in 22, Shadow of the Erdtree wins. If you take Elden Ring out, Shadow of the Erdtree probably beats God of War Ragnarok. Probably.
I feel like the fact of it was attached to a massive game like Elden Ring and only added more to it gave people that sense of grandeur of like, wow, this is special. Being able to do this on top of the game that already exists, that is Elden Ring.
Well,
compared to like God of War Ragnarok, especially.
I guess, but again, they could have chopped this off, put another 10 hours of content into it, and called it Elden Ring 2.
Yeah.
They or not. Don't call it Elden Ring 2. Don't put a number on it. Shadow of the Erdtree, and just chopped it off and made it its own game. And people would have seen it as like a spin-off game a la Miles Morales. It would have been nominated. It probably would have won.
It certainly would be seen that way, but I think that's kind of why we're determining what deserves to be on this list. Is it's attached to another game, so it's not its own separate game. Even if it could be. Are
you gonna look those developers in the eye and tell them their work on a 30-hour expansion with all new enemies, weapons, maps, and all the hard work that they had to put into it? You're gonna look them in the eye and tell them it doesn't deserve to be here?
Yeah, because of the reason I just stated. In terms of like how we perceive it, I would have said like, oh, it's totally its own separate game. But we're in an award ceremony on a game that won just previously, and it's an attachment to that.
I think them being attached to Elden Ring hurts them more than it helps them.
I think it prevents them from winning, but the fact that it's on the list is the thing people are complaining about.
It's a new game, bro. Like, I don't essentially, like,
I said that during the review. It is,
so like, I just don't understand the problem here. If it's impactful enough, if it's popular enough, and if it's quality enough, yeah, man, let it through. Why not?
All right, then why don't you go suck Jeff Keighley's cock? How about that, huh? Said apparently that's what he wants. You want it too. Why don't you go have sex with Keighley?
Huh? This is not what he wants. He didn't nominate shit.
Oh yeah. Who nominated this then?
They got. Oh, they don't have it actually. They have last year's.
Yeah. See. This is Jeff Keighley's plan.
They haven't released all the new jurors.
Well, here's the problem, Tavin. They could do that right now, but they're giving themselves time to come up with names because Keighley's the mastermind behind it, and he'll just try to pretend he's not.
Connor, the list is probably going to be very similar to last year's list. They just got to take Game Informer off.
Sad.
Rest in
Damn.
peace.
It could have been bought. It could have been bought. So
it could have been anything else. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to leave it there. Let us know down in the comments below how you feel about Elden Ring being nominated for Game of the Year. I want to put this conversation, because I think this conversation was more substantial than the one we had on Piggy Bank, but I don't want to discredit the one we had on Piggy Bank either. I don't know. I'll figure it out in the edit. But pray for me. I'm still sick if you can't tell.
Yeah. Rest your voice, Tavin.
I need to really badly. I need to stop talking. Remember, we do this show every Monday evening, twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames, and it goes up on youtube.com/@TwoPennyGames at Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, along with mainstream podcast services of your choice. Make sure to subscribe to us on Substack to read all of the lovely work Connor did this week that we're not going to get to, and just all the work. Connor, you got to put the other stuff up there too.
Yeah.
Anyways, and so make sure you subscribe to that and support us over there. Subscribe to us on TikTok, and follow us on all of our social medias down in the description below. Until next time, have a great time. Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye and have a great day wherever you are.